Hello and welcome back in Marketing Mix Modeling 101, everything you need to know about marketing mix modeling. I'm Christian and this is the episode 2 of the course. In this episode we will go through the 5 steps for marketing mix modeling workflow, and specifically we will see what these 5 steps are, we'll get an idea, an overview of all the steps, and then we will go a little in depth about the first step with the one that you see here in bold. And the other ones will be covered in the future videos. So let's get started. The first step in a marketing mix modeling project, I'll move myself on the right side over here, is to define the scope, define the project objectives. And this can take from 1 to 2 weeks. And basically what you want to do here is, in order to get the best possible output from the modeling phase, we need to know what we are looking for. What are the questions that we are searching for an answer? And in addition to that, we must know the business. So in this phase, we really want to get an idea of what the business is doing, how it works, where they are getting the most money out, whether it is offline marketing, online marketing, organic, and stuff like that. Because all this information put together will not only help us to understand what kind of data we need for both descriptive and statistical analysis, but they will provide us with enough information in order to understand whether or not our models make sense. Because as we said in a previous episode, sometimes when you do the modeling, when you complete the modeling phase, you may get a model that doesn't really represent the reality well, the business well. Maybe it's giving results that are not actionable for a specific business. So you will have to tune the model a little bit and adjust it to describe the reality better and be actually actionable for the business. So this is the main thing that you need to focus on in this first step. And this is the step that, in case you are working with a client, you will be the most in touch with the client, because here you will start getting the access to the data that you need. So basically do this step right and you will set your direction into the modeling phase. But in case you start missing something out here, you don't ask for the right data, this may really get a little tricky later down the road, because it's better to ask for more data here and once and for all, at the start, than maybe get into the modeling phase and then find out that you needed 2, 3 more variables, more accesses, and that's going to be tricky because maybe the client won't be as responsive as in the beginning, and that's going to impact on your deadlines, and then that's going to be your fault if you don't respect your deadlines. So do this right, focus on this part, try to get the most information you can about the business and about the specific channels that they are using and what kind of activities they are doing. And then you will be, this is going to make everything after a lot easier. Let's move on to the step 2. Step 2 is getting the data. So basically this is one of the most important steps in the whole project, and actually probably the most time consuming in the project itself. As you can see here, it can take from 4 to 6 weeks, and basically what you will do here is collect all the data that is needed for the modeling process. So you will not do any kind of transformations here, don't really need to do any actual modeling. Basically, you only need to get the data. You need to get the data about sales, about marketing, both offline and online, both paid and organic. And you will need to get I'll move myself on the left side again. You need the business data like price changes, promotions, and then the external factors such as lockdown, maybe the weather, oil price, everything that you will be using in your models. Most likely you will get more data where usually you will left something out. When you start the modeling, you see that some variables, you don't really need those. So it's better to get them before, but maybe you will left them out later on. And you should be collecting this data in a time series format. So to make it as simple as possible, imagine an Excel table where you have one column per each variable, like Facebook spend, Facebook impression, Google organic session, and stuff like that, and one row per each date. It's better to have daily data if possible, because that gives you freedom on the level of granularity that you choose to model on. But if daily is not available, you can go with weekly or monthly data. And basically you will have one row per day or one row per week. So this is the data collection part of the process. It's a step 2. And once you have all the data that you need, you will move on to step 3, which is, I'll move myself again, which is ensuring that the data accuracy is 100% sure. This means basically data validation and data review. This step is easily the most important step of the whole process, because if you make a mistake here, you are going to build a useless model. Like we said in the previous video, garbage in, garbage out. If you don't have correct data, if you don't build the model on real data, that's going to affect all of your project. That's going to make all your effort really useless. So just put all your focus in this step. It's really important that you check as much as possible the data and you really are sure that everything is correct. This step usually can take from 1 to 2 weeks based on the data that you have and the amount of data that you have. And once you have all the data collected, you can start checking it by comparing the data, the raw data, from the exports that you made, or maybe the database that you get the data inside. Compare that to the data from the source. Just like open Facebook Business Manager and see if the spends are the same, if the impressions are the same, and stuff like that. And maybe you can just pick some random dates and check them, confront them. Then you may add some, like, I don't know, 1 year of historical data and see if the sum compares from one platform to another and stuff like that. We will go in depth about what kind of checks we can do in the next episode, which is about data review and validation. Then you can look for missing data, because it's important that all the data you get are actually in the same format in the end. It's something that you'll probably have to work on, but if one source is missing like 1 month of data, you need to understand whether it's correct. Maybe for 1 month, the company stopped completely doing Google Ads. It can be something that happened, or maybe it's just an error in the export. Maybe you need to repeat the export, you need to repeat the API call to download the data or stuff like that. So look for missing data, be sure that you have a complete set of data, and if there's missing data, understand why there is it. And then you can do some correlation analysis. You can create a correlation matrix and try to understand, okay, is there some sort of correlation between all my independent variables? And if there is, you may have to choose to remove some variables, you may have to choose to aggregate some variables. Maybe it's not smart, it's not working to actually, use Facebook divided by campaign types. Maybe it's better to just aggregate Facebook as one channel. That's something that could be. And you can find out easily with the correlation analysis. And after that, you can do, for instance, some time series decomposition, in which you put in a time series graph plot your revenue over time, and then you plot your marketing expenses over time, and then you try to get an idea whether there is a peak in revenue. Was there actually a peak in our marketing expense, or was it some other variables that maybe we are missing out and we need to actually collect the data as well? So this is mostly what you'll be doing in this step. And once you are sure, 100% sure that the data are correct and are ready basically to be used for the modeling phase, you will be able to move on to the step 4 and the actual core of the whole project, which is creating the model. This step can take anywhere from 4 to 8 weeks based on the business, based on the kind of questions that you want to answer and everything. So the modeling phase is the first thing that you need to do actually in the modeling phase before even start modeling is feature engineering. which comprehends seasonality decomposition, variables transformations, modeling windows. These are all things that we will cover in depth in one of the next episodes about this specific step of the process. But just to give you an idea, seasonality decomposition means understanding whether your business is affected by holidays or seasonality. Maybe you sell a lot more in the winter months, while on summer you sell less and stuff like that. That's something that you have to find out and address before modeling, so that you can then model with those additional knowledge as well. Variable transformations are stuff like ad stock or saturation curves or diminishing returns, which basically, not everyone who see your ads today will convert today. Some will convert maybe tomorrow, some will convert next week. That is ad stock, basically. That is the impact of your marketing activities over time. So, on the other hand, you have diminishing returns or saturation curves, which describes how your marketing channels are going to change in terms of response over time. If you spend always more on a channel, you are not always going to get the same result, because at a certain point the channel is going to saturate itself and you will start getting less response and less response and less response. And we want to address that in our model, so that whenever we go and find out the best possible budget allocation, we don't have issues where our model tells us, okay, spend everything on Facebook, because that's not going to be realistic. So Facebook is going to saturate and we are going to waste money. So we address all of this before starting to model, so that we can get the most realistic modeling model possible. Then there is modeling window, which is actually another step, an additional step that you can implement in your model, and it helps you to better represent your marketing activities and your business in general. Because maybe you have 5 years of historical data, but your marketing activities of the last 6 months, for instance, will behave a lot different than your marketing activities of 4 years ago. So what you can do is use all those 5 years of historical data in order to find out about seasonality, holidays, and stuff like that. And then you model your marketing activities and other actual variables such as COVID and stuff like that only on the last 6 months, for instance, giving you a more realistic model of your business, basically. So this is all inside a sub-step, we can say, of the modeling process, which is feature engineering. And once we have everything ready, once we have everything defined, we can start the actual modeling process, which we can say it could be kind of an iterative process, because we will create maybe different models using linear regression, ridge regression, neural networks and stuff like that. And then we start analyzing the models. We will find out there are some things that we need to tune. Maybe we need to aggregate some variables. Maybe we need to model weekly instead of daily. Maybe we need to remove some variables and stuff like that. And we just analyze the model, tune them in order to get closer to what the model should look like in the end. And then we recreate the model with all the adjustments. In order to choose the best model, maybe you can choose to have 2 or 3 models running in parallel at the same time. And this is useful because whenever the models are, usually if you have well-trained and tuned model, even if you have like 2 or 3 different models, those will give you really close results. And using maybe 2 different models or 3 different models that give you the same result actually is going to basically make you more confident of what the models are telling you, because when it's only one model, it may be, there may be a mistake or something like that. When you have more models, the confidence is going to be higher and higher. And then for the last step, the step 5, we want to transform all the insights that we get from the modeling phase into actions. Once you have built your best model or your best models, it's time to analyze the outputs and results and transform them into actions. So you may want to focus on the share of impact of each marketing channels, on the ROIs, on the saturation points, in order to define the experiments that you want to test out in order to optimize them all. And maybe you can interrogate the model to find out the optimal budget allocation. There's so much you can do in the last step, which is actually the core in terms of if you are working with a client, because if you do a crazy good model and then you are not good at presenting what kind of insights they can get out of the model, that doesn't really communicate how much value they can get from the model. So this is everything. One little note before going back to the step 1 and talking a little bit more about this. We will not cover in this course the step 2, the data collection, the data collection part, because this step is really a time-consuming one that's based mostly on the type of technology that you choose to use. Because maybe you want to do all the exports manually and work with Excel, or maybe you want to create data pipelines and centralize them. You may want to develop every data pipeline by yourself, or you want to use a database more than another and stuff like that. So that's so much about the data centralization process. If you're curious about it, if you want to learn about it, please let us know in the comment, get in touch on LinkedIn or wherever, and we will be more than happy to create another course only on the data centralization part. But for now, we will now cover a little more about the step 1 in this video, and then in the next videos, we will see step 3, 4, and 5 in depth and understand how we can actually handle these steps for our clients, for ourselves. Okay, so let me get over here to this next one. About the first step. As we said, it's really important to know why we are doing the marketing mix modeling project in the first place. It's really important to define the right direction for the project. And there are some common questions that marketing mix modeling answer usually, which are maybe how much sales did each media channel drive? This is a common question specifically for big companies, maybe using many different channels and maybe using something like TV or radio, which is not directly, traceable. I'm not sure this is a word in English, sorry. But I mean, you can see the real impact directly of the TV. So this is a really common question. The other thing is understanding how much ROI each marketing channel is driving, because what we want to do is get the most out of each channel. So we don't want to oversaturate, we don't want to underspend, we really want to maximize the ROI, the return on investment for each marketing channel. And besides from understanding what my current ROI is, we want to understand how should I allocate budget in order to maximize the ROI. So this is another question that is really close to the second one, but required some more modeling in order to find out. And then another thing that your clients may want to understand is, should we change prices? Our products are our products priced well? Maybe we can higher the prices, maybe we can lower the prices. That's something that you really can understand thanks to marketing mix modeling. You can maybe understand what's the impact of competitor advertising on your sales. And you may think, how can competitor advertising affect my sales? One thing that's really common is that maybe your main competitor decides to launch a new campaign, to spend a lot on advertising for 1 month, for instance. What can happen is that that advertising can drive actually more organic traffic to your website, because maybe people see that ad, then they look for, like maybe new pair of shoes, and because they saw your competitor's ad, and they find you via Google, and so you start getting more and more sales, and there is a clear correlation between the competitor's advertising and your sales. In addition to that, you may want to know if you have saturated any marketing channels, and in case which channels, or you may want to know how did COVID impact your business. So there are many questions that marketing mix models can help you answer. It's important that you define those before starting the modeling, so that at the end of the modeling process, you will be able to go to your client and say, okay, you wanted to know A, B, C, and D. Look, I've done the model and these are the answers. You should spend more here. This is the ROI for each channel. This is the optimal ROI you can reach if you reallocate your budget. The prices are correct. You should not lower, neither higher them, because the data tell us it's the sweet spot, and so on. So it's important to get this right before starting. And one thing that I would like to share with you guys before closing up this video is actually this Excel file that you will find in the description below, and you will have only view access to this one, of course. You can then make a copy and use it as you want. And this is just a simple data request checklist that we built for ourselves, for Cassandra, to use that with our customers. So first things first, there are some important notes to always remember, because, not always you will be the one getting the data. Sometimes you may have to ask the data from your client, and then your client will send you, CSV files maybe, or something like that. So this is really useful whenever you work with your client in order to get all the data. And it's useful even if you have to get all the data by yourself. You can use this to track whether or not your customer has given you access to their data, because maybe you need access to their CRM, maybe you need access to their marketing channels, and so on. So at the top here, you will see some important notes about the format of the data. So provide daily data whenever you can, otherwise weekly or monthly. Data format should be year, month, and day divided by dash. Then weeks go from Monday to Sunday, which is not the same for everyone, so we want to specify here. Data, if you can split data by country or regions, that's something that's useful, because it allows you to have more granularity. And then if you choose not to use that kind of split data, you can always aggregate them back. However, if you have aggregated data in the first place, you will not be able to split them by country and so on. So if you can get more granular data, just go for it. The more granular, the better. Then you can choose to always aggregate the data back and just get overall data. And in the end, a little note about data should be in a tabular format, so one column per variable, one row per date. And basically, below you will have, let me zoom out a little bit. You will have all your data divided into categories. So the first one is target variable. What we are going to model. We want to model revenue, conversion, leads, customers. What is that, our output variable for the model? Let's say we want to do revenue. We can check this. Maybe there is some notes that we want to add about how to get this data, or who's going to get this data, for instance. And this is something that you will do with your client. So you define this, maybe a meeting with your client in which you go over and define the business questions that you want to answer. Then, both in that meeting, or maybe you take some time for yourself, you start getting an idea of what kind of data you will need, and then you do another meeting for the data request checklist. And then you're going to define with your customers all the variables in here. And you can use this other column, sure, to check whether, if your customer has to give you the data, you can check here to say, okay, I need the revenue. My customer has given me a CSV with revenue day by day over the past 3 years. Or on the other hand, if you are the one to get the data, you can check this one once your customer has given you everything. And it's important that you but you define the collaboration with your client in such a way that the deadlines start whenever you have access to all the data needed. Because otherwise, if your deadlines start after this meeting, but then the clients take 1 week to give you access to the data, that's really going to affect your deadlines. So define with the client before that the deadlines, the modeling phase, the outputs, they will receive those, like, let's say in a month, 2 months, but that's 1 month or 2 months from the moment that we have access to all of our data. And in short, we will see this file, then you can read it by yourself, but there is the target variables first, then there is the media marketing campaign. So you will have Facebook, Bing, Google, LinkedIn, TikTok, other ads channel maybe, and you can specify which one, and then check all the ones that your client is using and so on. Then you will see other marketing campaigns. So not media marketing, but maybe TV, out of home, radio or podcast, influencers, affiliates, and stuff like that. Then you have organic variables such as SEO, webinars, social media, maybe like simple posts on Facebook and stuff like that, emails or other things. And in the end, there is basically product-related variable, business variables such as product prices, promotions, maybe a new store opening, maybe, I don't know, we made some huge changes on our website on a specific date. We want to understand if that had an impact of either positive or negative on our sales and so on. And in the end, you have external factors such as exchange rates, COVID mobility, weather, seasonality, and everything else. So this is everything for this episode. But before closing up, I would just like to give you a little extra note about these timelines that you have seen here. These sorry for the background noise. It's my dog asking to enter the room. So the deadlines here, the 1 to 2 weeks, 4 to 8 weeks, these are really conservative time frames, basically. These have been shared by Facebook in their analyst guide to marketing mix modeling in the Robin documentation. And we decided to go for those because Facebook, is a big tech company, and it's pretty, you can trust this kind of timeline for probably larger companies doing marketing mix modeling, doing third-party marketing mix modeling. However, this can really vary. In fact, in Cassandra, the timelines are going to be a lot shorter because we believe that if you want to do a marketing mix modeling, you want to answer some questions and you need the answers as soon as possible. So we really have created a process and a framework that gives us the ability to be a lot faster than what you have seen over here. So thank you so much for watching, guys. This is all for this episode. In the next one, we will skip the step 2 and go directly to step 3, which is pre-modeling phase, and we will cover mainly data validation and review. Thank you so much for watching, guys. See you in the next video. Bye.